I'm almost afraid to touch this.
I'll admit it. You got it, you got it.
All right, so let's talk about how this all happens as it relates to your home or to your business. How do we go about determining the size of a solar system for you? And we'll talk a little bit, we'll give you an example of some of the pricing itself and the effect of tax credits and so forth. This is a fairly good representation of a net metered system on a typical home. Obviously, in most cases, we want to try and put our solar modules, solar panels on the roof, and preferably with a south-facing, southeast, southwest-facing roof would be best for solar production. Sometimes you can do west-facing roofs. But typically, that solar array, which is a combination of solar modules, is connected to an inverter. That inverter is a device that takes the solar generation, which is in direct current format, and changes it over to alternating current so that we can use it in the home or send it back to the grid. In this example here, it shows that current goes through the inverter. It goes through, in this example here, probably a disconnect or something like that in this example here, but it's feeding the loads in the home, your main panel primarily. So we're going to take that solar energy, go through the inverter, and then connect that into one of your breaker positions on one of your main panels or on a sub panel in the home. And that electricity is going to be fed into the house, and it's going to offset loads throughout the day. As Jim mentioned, with a net metering system like this, if you happen to generate, a great example would be today, where we're not using air conditioning, certainly not using heating, great sun. Many solar systems out there, probably most solar systems, are generating excess. That excess is going to be sent back to the utility company, and you're going to receive credit for that. And that credit is going to be at a retail rate of around 11 cents, which is what we pay in this area here. So it'll be offsetting whatever's being used in the home at that given time, whether it be your computer system, air conditioning, refrigeration, whatever the case may be. Obviously, that's not going to happen at night. So when the sun goes down, the inverter shuts off, the solar system is inactive. But as soon as that sun comes up in the morning, that solar system is going to engage again and start generating electricity for you. And the whole idea here is to reduce your operating expense as it relates to your electricity bills in your home. And the beauty of solar is that it just sits out there in the sun and does its job day in, day out without any really involvement from you, other than you write a little bit smaller check every month. So what are the optimal conditions for solar? I already mentioned that what we'd like to do is have a roof area that faces south, southeast, or southwest. As little shading as possible from trees or any other obstructions. We all like trees. We just don't like them shading our solar systems. So what we're going to do when we are given the opportunity to work with you, we're probably going to look on Google Earth or Bing Maps or something like that and try to determine whether you have a shading issue or not. And if you have too much shade, the right thing for us to do is to point that out to you, see whether you might be interested in trimming or removing trees. If it turns out that you're not a good site, you want to maintain the trees, what we would ask you to do is to volunteer for the program, spread the word, and try and maybe get your neighbors, relatives, friends, anybody in Carrboro to consider putting solar on their homes. And that has happened. Particularly, we found out in Durham, there's a lot of trees in Durham, there's quite a few trees in Carrboro in this area here. So not all of you will become good solar candidates. Roof pitch, tilt angle of the panels between 20 and 45 degrees. I wouldn't worry too much whether you have a flat roof or a steep roof. You're going to be able to generate good production with your solar system. And we're going to factor that in when we calculate what your solar production estimate is. So we'll know that by when we go out to the site and measure up your roof. But obviously, I would think ideal solar tilt angle would be latitude here, which is about 35 degrees. So the installation process, we've talked about some of this already, is you sign up, one of the two companies will call you, kind of review with you over the phone, most likely with Google Earth or Maps or Bing up, and we're looking at your home, making sure that it is your home for one thing, making sure that you're a good solar candidate, and then we'll set an appointment with you to come out and do that site analysis. And that site analysis involves all of these things right here. Trying to get an idea of what the shading issues might be. We all carry devices called Solmetric Sun Eyes that allow us to track the sun across your roof lines at various points throughout the year. And as a result of that analysis there, we're able to actually calculate what your shading effect percentage might be. So that has a lot of impact on the solar production, your annual estimate of solar production. We'll analyze your usage, so it'd be a good idea if you haven't already, with Duke, you can go on their website, set up a login and password for yourself, and you can pull down the last, I think it's 2 years, maybe 3 years of your usage. And so what we'd like to see is what's a good idea, what's an estimate of what your solar, or I mean your electricity usage might be in a given year. Then that has some effect on how we size the system, based on your budget, based on how much you would like to offset of your electricity bill with the solar system. We will do, as a result of the site visit, a preliminary system design. In most instances, we'll do that. If it's a wide open roof and it's an easy rectangle, we might not do that. We might be able to just turn that proposal around for you and get it in your hands without a site design. But normally, we are doing site designs. It's a simple SketchUp. Particularly, we're going to do a site design if you are in an HOA and you're worried about whether the HOA is going to approve your solar system or not. In most instances, if it's on the back of the house, you don't really have too much to worry about getting approval with your HOA. If it's on the front of the house, a good SketchUp design to take into your architectural review board is a must, and we will help you out with that. Project planning and permitting. Okay, so after all of this, you say, let's go ahead with the Solarize Carrboro contract. We go ahead and start doing all our drawings. All the drawings are stamped with an engineering stamp. Everything's permitted. We'll pull permits on everything. Most instances, we'll pull both an electrical and a building, and we manage that process for you. We do file your solar system. You do become a generator, so we do file it with the utility commission. So you're right up there with Duke and Progress and everybody else as an electricity generator. And of course, I already mentioned pulling all the permits and so forth. Once all that's done, then we're on site installing your system. And I would say the average time frame for an installation of a solar system on a residential is somewhere around 3.5 to 4 days. We manage to come back and meet the inspector, but generally speaking, the crew's going to be out there unless there's a weather delay or some other factor. We're going to be out there for 3 or 4 days and we're going to knock the system off.
Stu, I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you for a minute. It's not an emergency. It just occurred to me sitting here that one of the things we agreed on was to alternate presentations. So we're doing this one, Southern Energy Management is doing the next one. So whenever Stu says we, he means both companies, he doesn't mean
That's great.
us.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Can we hold questions to the end? Would you mind? So how does most people worry about roof penetrations, am I going to have leaks and so forth. Both companies, we're all licensed general contractors. We've been doing this, we have quite a bit of experience. We all use really, really good equipment and components to penetrate the roof, and the racking systems and so forth used to support your solar system are all designed for residential roof installations, all meet the wind codes and so forth. But essentially starts out with a penetration. We want to penetrate into your rafter. That's how we're going to secure the system itself. That penetration is drilled into the rafter, we fill it with sealant, and then we put this little stanchion on it. So that kind of starts the process. And of course, we have laid out the array as a result of what the design system was initially. Once the stanchions are put on, we do cover that completely with a high-quality flashing. That flashing is tucked up underneath your shingles, and it really eliminates any chance of any water penetrating that penetration at all. So we've done hundreds of installations without leaks. It's simply because the racking system and the penetration system that we use with the flashings, it would be almost impossible to get a leak as a result of it. It'd have to blow up from the bottom and blow up quite a bit to get into that hole. After those stanchions and flashings are put on, rails are put on, and the rails are what support your solar panels. Those are what support the solar panels. And you can see they're only about 1 3/4 inches off the deck of the roof. You want some airflow underneath the solar panels. It improves solar production, keeps them a little bit cooler, and also lets the rain and debris and so forth flow underneath. Then the panels are put on, or the modules are put on. And hopefully not all of you have a steep roof like that, please. And all of you hopefully don't have a third floor roof like that. We want Southern Energy Management to do most of this.
All the steep ones, there you go.
So that's what it looks like. On the back of a home, that's in Cary. And it's a pretty simple process, and in a process that's well defined and used frequently by both companies. So what's the real story behind all of this? This shows you the difference between an average price in the marketplace right now for this size solar system, which is a 4 kilowatt system, which is, somebody do the math on that, what's that, 16 panels? If the wattage on the panels is 250. So this is a fairly representative residential system that we're doing right now. With the prices coming down like this, we're tending to do even larger systems than this. But in this example right here, in the marketplace, the pricing is typically around $19,000. Your Solarize price, as you can see, is highly discounted up front, and that's a tier 1 price. So that's a great price in the marketplace right now. Jim already mentioned about the tax credits. It's the beauty of solar right now. If you can take advantage of that 30% federal tax credit, you can take all that credit in the first year or carry it over 1 year. And the state tax credit in North Carolina is 35%. 35%. And you're allowed 5 years to take all of that tax credit. We do show in our examples, and I'm sure Southern Energy Management does too, on all of their proposals, you do pay a little bit of tax, federal tax on your state tax credit, just like you do on your state tax return. So we want to show that. So it's not truly 65% off that price, but it's darn close. And so your net cost of that $15,920 Solarize price is down below $6,800 if you can take advantage of the tax credits. That system size right there, with a normal D-rate factor, D-rating from DC to AC, there's some shading that gets involved in that, roof pitch and so forth, azimuth. D-rate's out at about 3.2 kilowatts AC, alternating current. Your current price that you pay here in this area is about 10, almost 11 cents. The annual production of that size solar system on a typical average roof facing south is about 5,400 kilowatt hours per year. And that's the first year estimated solar production, and it'll produce a similar amount for the next 25 years. The beauty of the Solarize program is this tiered pricing. It's all about you and your ability to organize a large quantity of people interested in solar to improve everyone's net price. And so this graph right here represents kind of the discounts between tiers. So if we get to tier 2, you're going to save about $280. If we get to tier 3, about $800 off that price I showed you on the previous slide. And if we can get to tier 5, which we should be able to in this community, you're going to save $1,600 off that already low price. So it's a great opportunity. If you ever wanted to invest in solar, this is really one of the best opportunities you're going to get, in my opinion. This is a little slide that we include in our proposals. It can be somewhat confusing, but it kind of shows you the impact of solar. So if you did nothing and you decided not to invest in a solar system, that's kind of the cost of ownership of paying your electricity bill every year. And I think we factored in a 3% increase in the electricity bill per year for that. I think that's fairly conservative. I'm sure you would agree. The blue bar, or the blue graph, shows the investment in a solar system. And obviously you have to have the money up front, typically, unless you're going to use PATS financing. But there is a cost of investing in the solar system right here. And this first intersection point really is what we call the point of indifference. At that stage of the investment, there hasn't been a benefit or a detriment to that investment. In other words, you've improved, you've saved some cost, you're still paying your electricity bill with a 3% increase, but in that year 5, that's the point of indifference. Every year afterwards, your net worth, your household net worth is going to improve with your solar system. And so when you kind of look at this, that gap over there in the 25th year, which is somewhere around 15,000 to the benefit and about 20,000 on the other side, that gap right there really is the future benefit of your solar investment. It's huge. It's a payback that's quite significant. So that's a very good representation here of what it means to invest in the solar system. And 25 years may seem like a long time. It's not for solar. Keep in mind, most of the solar panels, and certainly the ones that we will be installing on your home in the Solarize program, have a 25-year production guarantee. So it's a long-term investment, and you'll certainly get to that stage. The other aspect of solar is the environmental impact. And I'm sure many of you are as interested in that component as you are in the return on investment. That 4 kilowatt system right there, as we've talked about, generating those kilowatt hours per year that we estimated will mitigate about 73, almost 7,400 pounds of CO2 every year. Every year. Another way to look at that, since about 54, 5, or 6% of our electricity in North Carolina is still generated with coal, you're offsetting approximately 4,400 pounds of coal being mined every year. It's significant. And then if you kind of want to represent that in something that we do every day in driving a car, that's like taking about 7,300 miles off the roads every day. That's how much CO2 you're making. So it's a significant statement that you're making with your solar system. It's a significant benefit, and that's why if we can get more and more people investing in solar, we really truly can make an impact. So at the end of the installation, once everything's installed, you're enjoying the benefits of your solar investment, your operating costs of your home are coming down or your building coming down. We're going to come out in our customer care phase of the installation process and give you a whole binder and manual of information that may be important to you for your solar system. And that includes all your warranties, all the operating manuals, if there are any, for any of the components that we installed. We're going to generate an as-built copy of your drawings, your plans, so you'll have that for your files. We want to also get some feedback on how we did during the installation. Were we clean? Were we communicating properly? Were we professional? Was there any issue that we need to know about and correct from that feedback session? And then, of course, ongoing support. That's really where we want to, make sure that you guys feel comfortable in. If you're investing in solar companies like Southern Energy Management and Yes Solar, you can count on us to be backing up what we install for you. And so we offer a high level of ongoing support. I think that's my end of it. So should I introduce?
I can choose this.
Okay. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Stu.